Chepkoech Towett here on the Tackle New Day TV. Welcome to our show this morning, and I am joined by very young people, and it makes me very proud because these are young people who are making changes, political changes, social changes everywhere they are. Where are you? How are you? It is a beautiful morning here in Nairobi, but it is very cold. July is Julying, so my people, keep warm and keep safe. Joining me this morning is Leken Ole Nteti, yes, who is a youth leader and also a political analyst, who will tell us more about what plans the government has for the young people. Especially in the last 2 weeks, we have seen what has been going on. The movement has been growing. The movement has been changing every day. It started with Reject Finance Bill that was rejected, but now we are here to discuss now what next, what is going on, because yesterday we saw demonstrations in the CBD of Nairobi, and we are here to dissect the issues that are affecting young people. And our topic this morning is generational shift in politics, a youth-led movement. But again, I am joined by a lovely guest, that is Miss Ruth Bolo, who is the board chair for Young Women Leaders Connect. Joining us later in the show will be Ken Babu, who is the national youth leader for DAP-K, that is Democratic Alliance Party of Kenya. And he is also representing a constituent of young people. We are here to discuss issues that affect us as young people. There is a generational shift. There is a change that is happening currently in the country. Where are we and how are we positioning ourselves for that change? So thank you for joining us. Kindly go on our social media pages, that is YouTube and Facebook, New Day TV. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and let us have a conversation there. I know most of our viewers are young people, and we would like to also hear from you. We are not just here to talk to you, but we are here to engage and have a conversation together on this discourse. What are we going to do about our future? Because growing up, we were always told vijana ndio viongozi wa kesho. I think the kesho came too soon. The kesho came too soon, and so we are here to discuss that and ensure that we are on the right side of history. When time comes and for us to be judged, we will have fought for something, for our generation, and to leave something for the next generation. Anyway, karibuni. But before we go to the topic of the day, I want us to do a quick newspaper review. And then you, my panelists, will also tell me. There was a presidential roundtable on Sunday by some of the top editors in the country. That was Joe Ageo, Eric Latif, and Linus Kaikai. I would also like to hear what your thoughts were on the presidential roundtable, because this was called by the president at a time where we were not sure what mood the country is in, So did it speak to you? Do you think maybe there's something you wanted to hear that didn't come up? So we'll do that after our newspaper review. But to start us off is Taifa Leo, Ni Roho Mkononi is the headline. And the subtext says, hali ya wasiwasi imetanda nchini kote kufuatia maandamano ambayo yamelemaza shughuli kwa wiki ya 3 sasa. Rais William Ruto anakabiliwa na wakati mgumu kuamua jinsi taifa itakavyosonga mbele, huku vijana wakimpa matakwa anayoonekana kujivuta kutekeleza. So there's been a quota of young people saying, yes, you are saying you're hearing us. Yes, you are saying that things are going to change. But the change, I don't know. Are you feeling like it's taking too long?
I think it is that...
given that it's only been 3 weeks.
Thanks, Chepkoech, for hosting us. Allow me to first start by condoling with the families that lost their loved ones. I know it is not an easy time, and even those who are recovering. I think for us as young people, it is not so much that it's taking time, but it is show some goodwill. We're not seeing some goodwill. And we would like to see the words that are being said, go hand in hand with actions. So in as much as we know there are certain things that would take longer than 3 weeks, but let us see the goodwill. That goodwill is what is lacking.
All right. Leken, are you of the same opinion? Do you think that... the president is talking about changing 1, 2, 3, yet the change is not coming, or the young people are feeling like, this change is taking a bit too long? Are we becoming impatient?
Thank you so much, Towett, for hosting us. And I think I should make one thing very clear, that when you're in pursuit for victory, you are aiming at something. And when you go beyond what you aim for, you technically lose everything. And that is what is happening right now. Initially, Gen Zs were aiming at the finance bill. The president has done his part. He has withdrawn the finance bill from the discussion that we had. The discussion is no longer about finance bill. It changed the tune. People are now saying the president must go. It's about corruption. And that is a completely discussion that we need to have. That has always been happening before. So I think we need to also be honest about ourselves. Let us be honest with our objectives, because at the end of the day, there are things that, there are channels that we can use to, air our voices and things like that. Like, for example, corruption and accountability. There are, offices mandated to do that are allocated funds. We should target such kind of, offices. And we should be also privy to information, because at the end of the day, there are, offices mandated to guide us on how we can be able to, air our voices in terms of accountability and things like that. So we need to be clear. Our objective was finance bill. The president has done his part. Let us give him time. Let us give him duration in terms of what we need, because there are also things that need constitutional change from, what we are getting from Gen Zs. And speaking from a point of emergency myself, and we don't have any other country. We don't have any other country.
I am in trouble.
If this country today goes the way Sudan went, the way Somalia went, we will not have any other country. And we need to be honest with ourselves. We don't want a situation whereby tomorrow you'll be looking for a place to run to. So we need to be honest with ourselves.
Right.
Chep, if I may, there are two things that Leken has said that were almost making me jump out of my seat. As a Gen Z myself.
Yeah, I don't feel safe.
I think the first thing is when he talked about the changing of the goals, in that now the conversation was first on the finance bill and then shifted. The question is, how many lives lost later did the president realize that this needed to be done? And at the point that he did it, was he remorseful? Was he empathetic? You see, the young people are feeling like we have a leader of a nation and he is not listening to us. So why the Kenyans have now moved? And right now, it's not just Gen Z. I mean, we've seen in the news, even mothers saying we are joining our children on the streets because they are being killed. We've seen church leaders say we are joining. We have seen even the men say we are joining. So it's not just an issue of Gen Z now, even though it was started by the Gen Zs. So why the conversation has shifted is because of how it was handled. And what Kenyans are saying is, as a nation, we told our MPs, go and vote no. Some of them voted yes. So if we as your employers, because Kenyans are the employers of members of parliament, are telling you to do one thing and you are constantly doing the opposite thing, I think it's about time we recalled you. If as our leader, as our president, we are telling you this is what we want and you're not listening, instead you're going the exact opposite direction, we don't want you in that seat anymore. So how he has handled this issue is what has now made Kenyans to go ahead and say, look, it's a little too late. He should have done more. He should have done it sooner, and that's why Kenyans are doing that. And then on the issue of the institutions that are there, that have been mandated to address some of these things, it is no secret that Kenyans have had, for a very long time, they've had an issue with some of these institutions that are meant to be independent. And if you want to study it, just look at the relationship Kenyans have with IEBC. Why is it that it's very easy after every election to say, to cast doubt on some of the results that IEBC is giving? So there's a trust deficit in our independent institutions that needs to be addressed. And that is why Kenyans are saying we don't feel like there's adequate option for us to address some of these issues. We would rather go to the streets.
All right. And as our guests are giving their sentiments, Leken, did you participate in the demos? I like how Leken is looking at you. Did you participate in the demo?
In one way or another, I participated in the demos. We did do pressers in that manner. But, at the end of the day, what really matters is we have a country. The president has listened to what we were doing, and he has agreed that the finance bill should go. Initially, even the points that, if you watch the roundtable that the president was having, he's ready to have a conversation with the young people. And the problem is there is no structure with the young people to have a conversation with the president. Because at the end of the day, how do you engage the government? You engage a government by you are either a registered entity, and that is why the head of public service requested youth-led organization to submit representatives who will engage the government on the issues raised by the Gen Zs. So we should just be honest with ourselves, because at the end of the day, this is a discussion that might not even end.
All right, and Ruth, I can see you writing notes, but hold on with your notes. Hold on with your notes. So, because I know part of what Leken has brought up is what will make part of our conversation later in the discussion, which is this the structural issues within the Gen Z movement. We have seen the government try to say, or rather say, that so who do we engage, who do we talk to?
Yeah,
but also we have seen the young people stand their ground to say we are a leaderless movement, but we will get into that later. Now, there's been also a conversation about the Speaker of the National Assembly, and part of the subtext in the Taifa Leo says, wabunge now walenga Wetangula, that is the Speaker of the National Assembly. Speaker atajwa kama kiini cha matatizo yanayoandama bunge kwa kuwa mjadala. In many issues, I don't think just as finance bill being the issue, but we have also seen in the recent past the Speaker of the National Assembly being called out to say that he's weakening the structures within Parliament. The debate is no longer what it used to be. So I don't know what your thoughts are. Leken, what do you think about how the Speaker has been handling the National Assembly? Is he being the leader that the Speaker should be? Is there some weakness that could be worked on? Is there... Are the MPs right in saying, some of the MPs right in saying that there is no leadership when it comes to the House?
I think the blame should go to members of Parliament, because at the end of the day, those are our representatives. It doesn't matter who the Speaker was or who the Speaker is. And then at the end of the day, it matters who the voters who elected these members of Parliament. If we're electing people to Parliament who don't even care who they're representing, they care about what they're earning, they care about the money that they're given to either pass bills, people who don't understand their role as members of Parliament. So the buck drops at us young people. Because I can tell you for sure, Towett, because I contested in the last election. And what drive me to contest as a young person is because I just don't want to see the change, but I want to become part and parcel of the change. And that is the conversation we need to have with young people. Don't just join the conversation. Be the change yourself. You want good legislation, be a legislator yourself. Because at the end of the day, what matters, are we putting right members of Parliament to Parliament? So that this conversation of members of Parliament are letting us down, let us put people there who knows what they are doing, who can legislate properly, who understand their roles as members of Parliament. So the buck drops at who are we voting in. It does not matter who the Speaker is, it matters who are we voting in as members of Parliament.
All right, and I like that. I like when now the young people are looking at political leadership in a different way. That it is no longer about which party this person was vying with, but I think more than ever, we have seen the importance of voting in the right person.
Absolutely.
And that will be a very big conversation, even come 2027. I'm sure the members of Parliament are already trying and thinking how to adjust.
Absolutely.
Because they know what is coming is not going to be easy. If we move to the People Daily, hey, there's a headline there that has touched my heart. Handy tips to survive on a tight budget. I think it is in the mind of all Kenyans. With the current financial times, and I think it is world over. I don't think it's a Kenyan thing. We are seeing a global recession.
Absolutely.
And so with many people currently going through financial hardships in Kenya, one has to live within their means. Every spending decision has to be accounted for. If you want to pay off debt or save money for a rainy day, then it is then crucial to get a grip of your finances. And I like this headline because when the conversation on reject finance bill began, and we saw a section of our members of Parliament say so, because the finance bill ideally was supposed to raise 302 billion as part of our budget for 2024-2025. But now, after there was this call for reject finance bill, the MPs, members of Parliament, started asking, so how do you think we are going to do X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
And the young people, they said, you see, kama niko na loan ya fuliza, kama ni pesa ya sherehe
Yes.
unakata kwa sababu
kidogo.
unajua uko na loan.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think this is not just for us as Kenyans,
Yes.
but also us,
Default,
individually,
yes.
but as a country. Again, there's a headline of Kenyans to pay more taxes, phone and TV.
Yeah.
After he dropped the finance bill, this is in reference to the president, East Africa Customs Law opened another window for President Ruto to increase levies on key household items, including baby diapers. Ruth, there has been a conversation on the diapers and the sanitary towels.
Yes.
And there was the issue of trying to incentivize the local manufacturers.
Yeah.
But then also came the issue of demand.
Yeah.
And supply. Now, East Africa, East Africa, Wakenya watawamaliza. Kenyans are fighting the finance bill on this other side. East Africa is opening doors on the other side.
That is true.
Home and away, literally.
Yeah.
I think this it cannot be said enough times that you cannot overtax your citizens in a bid to grow the local economy or in a bid to encourage local production. But the conversation on diapers, for example, has always been, one, do we have the raw materials that are required? And two, the cost of production is too high. Three, with the free trade area, are we able to sell our items competitively? That has always been the question.
Yes.
And so even as we continue to, even as the president is being enticed and is being told, look, this might have dropped, but there is another window for you to increase levies on household items. I think he needs to really critically think, because you might go ahead and increase these items and lose, in another area. We've also seen that a lot of these manufacturers are looking at the taxes that they're paying and they're saying, I need to lower my cost of production. And if I am lowering my cost of production, the first thing I am going to do is to do away with the heaviest recurrent expenditure, which is the wages that are being paid. So ideally, that then means that you have to cut down on the number of staff you have. And those staff, which most of them are young people, will go back to the streets because they are unemployed.
Absolutely.
And so I think we need to have a look at some of the ripple effects that are there. And we need to ask ourselves, why is it that our neighboring countries, in terms of their materials that they're producing and in terms of their imports, why is it that their margins are increasing and our margin is decreasing? I think that's a conversation that we need to have.
All right. Some good insights there. Now, we are seeing what is, I think, a presser by the leader of Azimio, that is Raila Odinga. And it says Raila vows to crack whip on rebels. And immediately after the voting of the finance bill, that was on the third stage, we saw some political party leaders say that they are going to crack
a whip on their members.
Yes, for voting, especially those that voted yes.
Yeah.
And there was even a call to, recall one or two just to
show the
to show the rest.
Yes.
I mean, but as Leken has rightfully put it, some of the issues that we have in our National Assembly is courtesy of who we voted in. And I have always said that we are who we are, courtesy also of our political parties.
Absolutely.
Our political parties are the ones who forward these leaders to Kenyans to say, this party forwarded X, Y, Z. So by the time 5 people are on a ballot,
Yes.
definitely one is going in.
One is going in, absolutely.
So I think we also need to relook how our political parties
structures are.
Yes. And moving to the Business Daily.
Sorry, just before you move in,
Yes.
you move on to Business Daily. I was watching a clip. I believe it was in Ikolomani, where there was a gentleman who had his crutches.
Okay.
And he was asking members of the public, I think it was a funeral or whatever it was a gathering, and he asked, tulituma mbunge wetu apige kura aseme nini? Aseme yes ama aseme no? And the members of the public said aseme no. Basi kwa nini alipiga yes? And you could see the rage in citizens. So I think, and I am really urging, if the ODM disciplinary committee is listening, they need to urgently make an example out of one of those members of parliament. They need to do it as a matter of urgency.
To our viewers this morning, we are joined by Gen Z. As we know, Gen Z do not take any hostages. Wana deal na wewe hapo. But Leken, before you come in...
Maybe just to chip in on what she has said, at the end of the day, conversation has always been, people are saying, you didn't involve us even when you're, coming up with this finance bill. And McHugh, a public participation was done. It is only us Kenyans who, let me tell you, Mzungu once said, if you want to hide something from an African, put it in a book. You see, the biggest challenge we have with Kenyans, people go with the wave of what people are saying. Today, someone will come with a complete different narrative, and that is what we have, because entirely the finance bill was not that bad. But you see, the conversation that it was out there is completely different from what was in that document. Because you will find someone on the street on Monday before Tuesday, when even the amendment was done, and someone will tell you, I'm in the street because of, diapers, sanitary towels are being taxed. I'm in the street because of motor vehicle levy. I'm in the street because of the eco levy and things like that. And those are things that were amended fully. You see, let me tell you, at the end of the day, what matters is our country. But that said and done, we need also to improve on what we are producing as a country, making sure that we tax what is coming in, but we exempt taxes, we incentivize what the products that we are producing as a country. So we need to have that conversation and also be able to know that at the end of the day, what matters is, are you familiar with what is happening in the country? Because a lot of people indeed do not even know whether people say that finance bill came with William Ruto, and finance bill has always been there. So we must be honest with ourselves, get information and get the right information.
Leken, while you are there, Ruth, I know where you're going with this conversation. Leken, while you are right there, you have brought up a very important issue and pertinent issue, and something that the president said in his round table. And he said, public participation is an integral part of our lawmaking. But the issues we've had with public participation, and it is something I have asked even the lawyers that come to our show. We need to amend and relook how we do public participation. Right. Because as we know Kenyans, they will always look for a loophole.
Absolutely.
A governor will go and call all his relatives and clansmen and sit them in a town hall somewhere.
Have a public participation.
Public participation.
Absolutely.
So what is the threshold of public participation? What is the composition of public participation for it to pass as public participation? But also there's been the other issue of the views that are brought up in the public participation are not taken into account. Because we've seen people go even before parliament when they call for submission. And people will come and say, but we went with our memorandum.
But it was not absolutely.
You understand? So there is also, and Ruth brought up something about trust deficit. The problem in this country, the biggest problem is the trust deficit between the citizens and the leadership. So when we talk about public participation, how are we doing our public participation? How can we change how we do public participation? Because as you're sitting here this morning, Leken, you are a leader. There is a group of young people you lead somewhere. They also look up to you for direction. How are you going to engage them in public participation? Ruth, as you sit here, you engage women as a board chair in very many ways. How are we going to call up the young people to now finally come to public participation and have something to say? When someone calls out to say, but you didn't come for public participation,
absolutely.
To say we came and this is what we
say. Absolutely.
So in our own ways, let us think of ways on how we can engage the public. But also on the issue of the finance bill. It is funny, yesterday I went to, as I was in my mutaani, I went to the shop. As I was waiting for the shopkeeper, there was a group of young people seated somewhere, and then someone brought up the issue of finance bill. And the young, they were a group of about 5. One person said, unajua tunabeba ujinga, hii kitu ishapita bwana. Then one said, they said after 14 days, it will pass. What am I trying to say? Government communication. You understand? Because now, I had to stop and tell them, no. This is what is going on.
This is what is going on.
Because again, we are trying to combat disinformation and disinformation.
And disinformation, absolutely.
So what are we doing also? And Leken, I'm going to throw this to you.
I think, one, the government has failed on its side, especially in informing the citizen. I can say for sure that government structures like government delivery unit has failed completely. It has failed the president because it is an entity that is being allocated money to try and show Kenyans that this is actually what is happening. And that is why you will even find young people saying, no, this guy, since the last 20 months, he has not done nothing. And there are things that have been done. But you see, the institution that is mandated to put that information out there is what is letting the president down. Even in terms of the finance bill, what people are saying, someone will even say, oh, this thing has passed, ilishapita kitambo, hata imesainiwa. That is the misinformation that is out there. And most of young people are not informed on how even the structures of the process of the bills and things like that. So it is prudent that the president have a shocker on these people who are letting him down, especially such kind of structures. So that is a conversation I think the president said in his roundtable that people will see change, and we really need to see that. We are hopeful to see that change because those are the people that are letting him down. They are not putting it out there for people to understand what he's actually doing and what has not been done and the reasons why finance bill was rejected and whether it has been rejected. People are not putting it down.
All right.
Chep, as a leader of any institution, when your team does well, you take all the credit.
Absolutely.
Similarly, when your team does wrong, you take all the blame
for that.
So we cannot sit here and say the government delivery unit is not working.
Okay.
The whatnot is not working.
Yes.
The president has not been informed by NIS.
Yes.
I don't know who is not working. The president needs to put his house in order, point blank period.
Okay.
I think everything else is a story. And on public participation, I've had a lot of, people, especially aligned to the ruling government, say Kenyans did not attend public participation. Kenyans did not speak. Kenyans told you 2 weeks before, no. They went, how much public can that get? They went on the streets and said no. On the public participation forums, and I think I want us to be very honest with this, just like you have rightfully said, there is no threshold for a successful public participation forum, which means I can call today my whole clan and say I have conducted a public participation forum. And you will not be able to rule that out. You will not be able to prove.
Because those are members of the public.
Exactly. So we cannot go ahead and say there was public participation forum as a defense mechanism. That is one. And two, I want us to look at the method and means that politicians and the government conduct their public participation when their interests are there. We saw how NADCO conducted its public participation forums. There is not a single soul in this country that did not know there was public participation for NADCO. I mean, we had Kenyans for the first time go on TV and say, use their prowess to just explain. We had a gentleman who went and gave very heavy legal jargon, and everyone was wondering, this man is a lawyer from which institution? But he was just a passionate Kenyan.
Absolutely.
Because everyone knew. Anyone who cared to listen, on whatever social media platform it was, could just log in, and the first thing you would see was NADCO. NADCO is meeting here. Look at BBI. Look at Punguza Mzigo. So whenever their interests are covered, they are very intentional in ensuring and every corner of this country gets to know about the public participation forum and gets to know where it is. So this issue of public participation being used as a defense mechanism against why Kenyans are quote unquote making noise for no reason without following the due structure, I think it's an absolutely bad defense mechanism.
But you see, let me just try and sentimize what she has said. At the end of the day, one, you should also be aware of the programs of Parliament. Parliament is a completely different institution. It has answered. All reports are published. All the public participation that they do are televised. So that is something that you cannot say in totality that it has not been done. And if you ask any other young person, this information is not out there to them. Parliament goes live, especially when it's doing its public participation, they do Hansard. So those are information that when you request for, you can get. So let us not also say that we are using that as a defense mechanism. It is not something that was done. It is something that has been done, but only small percentage of people were involved. So let us also be honest with ourselves, because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, what matters? Are you reading the newspaper yourself? Because Parliament publishes memoranda any other time they are requesting for people to submit. Are you reading that newspaper? Are you trying to gather information?
Now, I have a question to the both of you. I also saw a section of Kenyans, as we were just, in the last 2 weeks, just before and after the voting, and now there was there was the uproar on our MP voted yes, and yet we said no. And then some section of Kenyans, especially young people, will go to say, but in fact, I remember one particular one that said, that is his right to vote.
To vote.
Yes. Now, my question is, an MP has 3 jobs. Oversight, legislate, and represent. If you're representing a group of people who said no, how are you voting yes? Or if you are representing a group of people who said yes, why are you voting no? Is the vote your personal conviction or the constituents' vote? That's what I want you to tell me.
Just to answer you, Towett, members of parliament are voted into parliament either independently or through a party. And at the end of the day, when you voted in by the party, it is the party that has its own kind of, stand on certain types of bills and things like that. So in as much, let us not also be hard on members of parliament, because most of them, they voted what they voted because of the stand of their political party. And if you don't go by, the stand of the political party, of course, there are disciplinary measures for you as a member of parliament. So let us also be honest with them in that way that people, in as much as people voted for these people, at the end of the day, while in parliament, they vote the stand of the party. So let us not also put them in a very hot, but also there are things that it is not always that the party have a stand on each and every bill. Like, for example, what happens currently now, the members of parliament from the Kenya Kwanza side, they voted that because this is what the government want. The government want to manage public debt. They need a deficit for the budget. So they voted the stand of the party. Similarly, to other cases where people voted no, they voted the stand of their parties. And you can go right and check it. Even members of parliament from ODM, most of them voted no. We'll go to Wiper, most of them voted no. That is the stand of a political party. So let us not also victimize them because of, they are not voting what they want, but they are voting the stand of their party.
And I like what
and
you
that is the
brought
conversation we need
Ruth.
to have. That is the conversation we need to have. Whether do political parties should even just look at what happens even across other countries like Congress in the US, House of Commons in the UK. Most of these people, they represent parties in their parliaments, and they vote the stand of the party.
All right. So Ruth, is it a party position? Is it a personal conviction? Is it a people's vote? That is one. And I like what you have said. If a party then has made a stand, so what should happen to those who go against the party stand? Because you've rightfully said that, for example, Wiper were against the finance bill, right? Yet we saw Farah Maalim vote yes. So then what should happen to Farah Maalim going against the party position? Because what also is happening to Kenyan political parties is lack of discipline.
Absolutely. People are shifting from one place to another.
Chep, you know what I hear Leken saying is that the party is more superior than the people. That is what I have heard Leken say. If I were to interpret it, that is what I have understood. However, if we are being very honest, yes, I agree that there is the wave of voting in political parties. But if we are being very honest, in this country, do we vote in parties or we vote in personalities? If today Raila Odinga was to step away from ODM, will it have that backbone? If William Samoei Ruto was not in UDA, would it have that backbone? So do we vote in parties or do we vote in personalities? So at the end of the day, it is the Kenyan people that still give these personalities that backbone. It is the Kenyan people, it is the electorates that still give those parties the backbone. We've had situations in various counties and various constituencies where a person is unable to get the party ticket, And the people vote him or her independent.
Absolutely.
Or they move parties and Kenyans are still go ahead and vote them in. So if I were to be asked, I would say that these members of parliament, remember that at the end of the day, they were nominated by political parties, yes. But who voted in those political party primaries? Why it not Kenyan electorates? So who is supposed to be more superior, the party or the Kenyan electorates? It's the Kenyan electorates, because they are the ones who vote you in right from the party primaries. In as much as we know there's a lot of restructuring that needs to be done in our political parties, but the Kenyan electorate is more superior. Go in there, listen to your people, vote according to what your people are saying. And if your party decides to de-whip you from your positions or whatnot because of going against the party and listening to the people, those people will stand with you. I can tell you today there are members of parliament. We saw members of parliament who are putting on t-shirts saying, I am sorry, forgive me. And parading their wives, unfortunately, to also say he is sorry, please forgive him. Which then means that they know that the Kenyan electorate is number one more superior. And that's why they're coming to the Kenyan electorate to say, I'm sorry. If it was all about the political parties, then they would not need to go back and talk to the electorates. We would not be voting in, individuals. We would be voting in against party lines, just like South Africa does. So I think we need to be very honest. And my call also goes out to Kalonzo Musyoka. He's been for a very long time wanting to be the Kenyan, the official Kenyan opposition leader, especially with Raila Odinga going. As an electorate, as a voter, I want to see his spine. I'd like to see his spine, and I'd like to see him discipline Faramali. Once we see that spine, then we can have a conversation about him even being a
just to add on what you said. You see, at the end of the day, it is not about a conversation of who is superior or not. These are structures that has always been there.
And the Kenyan voter should be listened to.
In fact, that conversation, we are not even doing a conversation of comparison, whether who is superior or not. Because at the end of the day, you have an option of either being elected as an independent candidate or an option of going to the party. Because if you believe that people can stand with you, if you've not either through a party or independently, you can contest independently. So let us also be very honest, because at the end of the day, we don't want a situation whereby, because these are structures that has always been there, and it is a process.
Okay, I will cut the discussion. We have a spirited discussion ahead, so save the energy. Gen Z, clearly, they are taking no hostages. But thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
It gives us hope, even as young Kenyans, to know that we have young political leaders out there who know what they are doing, who have their information right, and have the interests of the country at heart. And Business Daily is saying this morning, no thank you. That is Mwangi, CEO of Equity. No thank you. Why Equity CEO declined bonus millions? Hey, Mr. Mwangi, my account number is the bonus can be sent there. But we're also seeing NSC, that is Nairobi Securities Exchange, shed 63 billion in 2 weeks as investors raffled by tax protests. And these are some of the things that now are a ripple effect of when there is instability in the country. In investors pull out, then the stock market becomes very unstable. Share prices drops. Yes, and so even as we are going about our protest or whatever it is cause that we are agitating for, we need to be careful in how we portray Kenya to the world, especially when it comes to investors. We know globally we have an economic recession. We know globally after COVID hit, a lot of companies are still trying to recover. So we do not also want to destabilize our economy locally. Now, quickly, the Star and Daily Nation, and the Star says violence, looting, and shots. So these are some of the things that happened in between the protests. Thugs infiltrate peaceful demos, causing chaos in different parts of the town. And this was also a conversation by the political class. But I want us to quickly go through it, and then we can come and begin from that. The police brutality and the violence that came in during the demos. So the Daily Nation says 6 police officers on the radar of a youth demo. So police brutality again. It goes to show where there was excess use of force by the police, and do we have a national police service as envisioned by the constitution, or do we still have a police force? Because it's one thing to offer service to Kenyans, it's another thing to use force. And MPs and CSs, that is cabinet secretaries, get a pay rise amid tax pains. Ruth, please punguza the violence. And Our late Kama has joined us. Karibu sana Bwana Ken Babu.
Thank you.
You know, I'm beginning to think Ken Babu is aligned to the Kenya Kwanza government because they are the ones who do things a little too late.
Little too late.
But I'm happy to see him. I think on the tax issue, Chep, I sat down yesterday listening to this course and I asked myself, we have 365 days in a year. At this time, when there is a lot of anger in Kenyans, when there is a lot of blood in our soil, when there are a lot of tears in our ground, that is when the SRC decides it's the best time to release and increase salaries. When people are saying we are overtaxed, and the same government that is overtaxing people is saying we have no money, is saying we have no money, but we have money to increase salaries. Was this the right time? I think for me, that is the first question that lingered in my head even before anything. Because then we know, come 2027, January, February, they will be saying, reduce our salaries. We are being paid too much. Why? Because we're heading to the election season. So I think that conversation alone of just increasing the salaries is one that continues to act the Gen Z even before anything else. The timing is wrong, and I think the priority is also wrong. In as much as, yes, I do understand where members of parliament are coming from, because at the end of the day, when you go to the constituency, the fourth agenda that actually Kenyans added for members of parliament and is not in the constitution is development. And not just members of parliament, but everyone else. And the fifth one that they have added for them is handouts. So every weekend when you go there, you either have people waking up to your doorstep, or you've got a harambe, you've got a wedding. Nowadays, they're even contributing for baby showers and birthdays. So I know that in terms of the cost burden, it's a lot on them. But I've always said, if our structures were working as they should, Kenyans would not be needing to ask them for money. If our education system was working as it should, our free education was working all the way, Kenyans would not be needing to call you for harambe for education. So I think we need to prioritize, and increasing the salaries of our legislatures is not a priority right now.
All right, and as Ken Babu is joining us, and he will tell us what happened to him and where he was. Ken Babu, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you, please?
I'm doing well, and I think I'd love to apologize for all of you for coming late, but I blame the government.
What has the government done, Ken Babu?
I blame the regime.
All right, welcome to the show. It is good to see you this morning. Ken Babu, are you a Gen Z?
Yes, I am.
So today I am joined by Gen Z. Guys, pray for me. Wanaweza nitoa nje na show ni yetu. Anyway, thanks for joining us this morning. And we have someone who has commented on our Facebook page, and that is Omari Omodo. And he says Leken is well informed and he's really articulating his points very well, top mind. Hey, kiongozi, naona watu wako standby.
Kiongozi alimobilize.
Let me be very honest with you, Towett. In as much as we are pro-government, because this is a government that we voted in as Kenyans, because you cannot say in totality the 7 million Kenyans who voted for William Ruto, you cannot just brush that off. So we must also be honest with the fact that a percentage of Kenyans had trust in the president. That is why they voted.
But no one has ever disputed that.
And that is the conversation we need to have. We need to have a honest conversation with young people, because most of them did not vote in the last election. Myself being a candidate in the last election, I know I convinced most of the young people to vote, and most of them were telling me, this thing is predetermined. No. So that is the conversation we need to change. In as much as we want to see good leadership in these positions, let us get involved, let us vote.
All right, and the last one, that is the Standard says, the headline is shut down. So businesses in major towns and cities came to a standstill yesterday after protesters took to the streets and blocked highways. The protests, however, degenerated into acts of looting and property destruction after thugs infiltrated the demonstrations across the country, causing massive losses. So this is something that has come up. But my question is, picketing and demonstration, there's a right to picketing and demonstrating, But then again, how do you ensure that the people who are on the streets, their rights are protected, that is, they're heard, without the demonstrations being interfered by now thugs, because when the police come, at the end of the day they descend on everyone and forget that there are people who are actually there agitating for a cause and not causing harm. While there are people who are there, you know, wakitafuta leo watatoka na shopping ya wapi. And Ken Babu, did you go for the demonstrations?
From day one.
Hey,
I've been there.
all right. And what
And
was
we've been doing it peacefully.
peacefully, as you may
Peacefully.
add. All right, so I will start with yes, you participated in the demonstration. There's been a rhetoric from the political class that these demonstrations have been infiltrated by the political class, or now by the thugs. But the Gen Zs, on the other hand, are saying that this is an organic movement. Ken, what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you so much. First, let me put it clear that the first 2 demonstrations were so peaceful and it was organic without any infiltration. But what we saw yesterday, there was some aspect of hijack. Because to my understanding, I don't know, because in my capacity I cannot take those coffins to the streets. Up now I don't understand how the coffins arrived on the streets.
And why they were there.
I don't know. You know, I'm still asking myself, how did they come and why were they being brought? But as that may be, we must also acknowledge the fact that in the demonstrations of yesterday, there was still Gen Zs on the street, still agitating for the issues that we marked from day one. And one of the things that propelled yesterday's demonstration was the previous interview, where the president appeared...
The round table?
The round table, yeah. Where the president appeared uninformed of what is happening. And it is good that he also acknowledged that that his communication team had messed him. But surprisingly, the communication team messed him, but they are still on salary. He ought to have sent those guys home in the first place. So that, you know, Towett, if your boss today says that you messed him, I think in his right senses, he should send you home first.
You should
so that he organizes his house while you are away kidogo. Hata kama unaenda kabisa, but kidogo tukae chini kidogo tupange mambo. So the demonstrations have been authentic, real, with real issues being raised. But as it goes, there is some aspect of hijacking. And I tend to think that the political class are trying to settle scores with this demonstration. The government, the people in the government, and those, I mean, I don't...
You have
the government and the anti-government within the government. You get that?
Yes.
It is the government, those who believe that the government is good,
in government.
and the opposition in government are now taking over to settle their scores. But as the generation said, we are not going to agree to that because our issues have not been addressed. And that's why we are saying the president need to be clear and take actions. You know, the things that we propose to the presidency do not call for a dialogue. Honestly, if we are saying that the offices are unconstitutional, PCS, wife to the PCS, I don't know, you get that? Why do we have to sit on a round table with the president as a generation to convince him that indeed, sir, these things are constitutional? Just let him wake up, call for a State of the Nation address and say, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and Generation Z, I therefore, as the president, scrap off. Mudavadi ande nyumbani. Or he maintains being a foreign minister affairs. I mean, foreign cabinet foreign affairs. The wife, the office of the spouse, the prime cabinet secretary. Aende nyumbani. Office of the deputy, what's that?
First
spouse to the deputy president. Aende nyumbani. Get that? And then 130 advisors who failed to advise the president on the status of the nation before he came for that interview. Why aende nyumbani? What we are saying is, honestly, we've had dialogues in this country, and NADCO is the latest. And the reports, all of us are aware that reports were brought and nothing has happened. Personally, I submitted my views on behalf of the young people, that NADCO report. I'm also waiting to see action being taken, but nothing is happening. So why are we going to wait? Because anyway, if we go for that dialogue, I can tell you, and we are ready, we can go for it. But what are we going to do? Go to Kisumu Hotel, take some tea, call for some little guys, take pictures. We're in Naivasha, photo, Mombasa, photo, for 6 months. And you're being paid using taxpayers' money and not providing solutions. Jana tumeona SRC wameongeza salary ya wabungi. The same people who could not listen to the will of the majority and went ahead to vote a finance bill that was opposed by the almost half the country. Look at that. They have been appreciated for being dishonest and arrogant to the people, to the voters. We've seen the PCS being added salary. An unconstitutional office. The office is unconstitutional. The people within that office, and we saw yesterday, recently, I don't know, communication director or somebody.
The one who was engaged in corruption.
Engaged in fraudulent activities. I mean, the office is unconstitutional. Office holders are still shameless to conduct fraudulent activities within the unconstitutional office. So what is the problem with this country? Let me just put it so that I can get the same level with you guys. This issue of SRC is a very serious issue. And I've just stepped in when Bolo was talking to it. From where I sit, that madam at SRC, she has overstayed. Anafaa apelekwe nyumbani kwanza. Those are the things, those are the laws that the president need to clear, because it doesn't make sense. It is ametuonesha middle finger. Get that? We are agitating as a country so that these guys' salaries can be cut, so that we can reduce expenditure, so that we can ensure that the recurrent expenditure is at somehow marked to some extent. But again, in the midst of controversy, in the midst of agitation, in the midst of pain, anasema tumeongeza wangwana pesa. Naona. As I finish, East African Community magazine communicated yesterday that we are going to have tax increase. Cooking oil, diapers, sanitary towels, TV and phones. And they are saying that it is the Kenyan government that applied for that. So the government on this hand was telling us that we've dropped the finance bill. Kumbe chini ya maji wameapply huko. Hii ni ukora. Serikali majambazi bana.
All right, Ken Babu as usual, he walks in with violence. He wakes up and chooses violence. But Ken, good to see you this morning.
Thank you.
And also Anne Boog is watching. Anne, thank you very much for joining us this morning. She's a young leader who comes from Nakuru County, who agitates for, political rights. And Anne is someone who's walked a very long journey in the political field. Now, Babu has brought up something that has also been coming up, and Leken alluded to it at the beginning of our conversation, and I told you to hold on for a reason, because I needed Ken to be this conversation for this one, and it is about structures. So we saw the government call the young people to say, who are your leaders? We saw people being, I don't know whether to call it allegedly abducted, whatever happened to those people, but they could not be found. They disappeared for some time. And the reason was, most of them, when they came out, there was this question that the government was asking, who is your leader? And now it came out in public where the government said, we want Gen Z to put together their leadership. You come, we talk. And that was not giving. We saw the head of public service say, okay, then send your representatives. So there's been the issue of who is your leader. They want your leader. Now, my question has been, so what is the structure of the movement? That is one. And two, why is the government now interested in the leadership of whoever or whatever of the movement? Ruth?
You had told me to hold on to my notes.
Yes, I told you to hold on to
I will start by some 3 things that my very good friend Leken said about there being no structure, encouraging people to speak through a registered entity, and the big question of who do we engage. Now, number 1, in terms of wanting to engage people, in as much as there may be structures for it, sometimes you have to use unorthodox methods to get the results that you need. We have seen time and time again in various countries, we see the politicians conduct town hall meetings and they get the feedback they want. They conduct an open town hall meeting, they call people and they have that discussion. What makes it so difficult in our case? Why can't we call? The young people are saying, we do not have a leader because number 1, anytime we have a leader, you compromise that leader. So we do not want to bring our leader so that you can tell them,
Leken is in disbelief.
we are going to give you a handshake for you to step down. We are going to give you this position for you to step down. So they're saying we don't want you to compromise our leader, so we have no leader. We are not giving you a leader. That is number one. Number two, we also feel like, and it's been said over and over again, that, give us leaders, we cannot engage publicly, but that is how we've been conditioned to think, that it has to be that way. But Gen Z has been doing things differently. This is a generation that, number one, is very inquisitive. You will have to tell them why you want them to do this or why you don't want them to do this. Why that is the only option. Number two, this is a generation that loves to negotiate. So you even look at how most of us were raised, and I've always said it. Previously, my mother would rather have been beaten by her neighbor than be beaten by the mother. But right now, or rather growing up, if my neighbor beat me up, my mother would be the one going to knock at her door, because things are different. So we cannot insist that things have to be done the same way. Generation Z, as Babu called it, or Gen Z, has also said over and over again, those that have mobilized us and those that have come together to be at the forefront have been abducted. We saw what happened to Dr. Austin. Dr. Austin's only mistake was to bring together doctors. And what happened? He was abducted. The first press conference he did when he was released, you could see the man was shaken. So Gen Z is asking, so you want us to give you a leader so that you can abduct all of them? We saw what happened to the KSL chair. He was tortured. Doctors are saying that by the time we got this boy, he was tortured. He had wounds. So Gen Z is asking, so do you want to torture all of us? Therefore, we have no leader. Gen Z have also created their own table. So this issue of we are calling you to the table, no. We have our table. So you are welcome to our table as your employers for you to discuss on the way forward. Call us to Nyayo Stadium. Let the mics rove around, because then if I am sitting with my neighbor who knows nobody in the government and my neighbor is able to speak, then I will know that is authentic. Then I will know you actually want to listen. And finally, the president brought journalists, and I know we are going to talk about it, to the table, as he had, said, give me your institutions. But what happened? He ended up being the interviewer, number one. Number two, he was very defensive, and I think I'll speak on the rest when we talk about that. But we have seen what he has done when he has purported to, or when his government has thought that they are leaders. We have seen what he has done when he has brought people to the round table. So why would we set ourselves up by giving him a leader? All we are saying is that if you want to know what Gen Z want, it is on the placards. Gen Z has simply said, you must go. We do not want you. Step down and resign. What other message do you want? How else do you want to hear it? If you cannot read the placards, number one. Number two, Gen Z is saying, we want you to take account for the debts. How else do you want to hear it? If you're saying your team has let you down, but Mr. President, you want to tell us you cannot read the placards? Do you want to tell us that you genuinely cannot hear? Gen Z have said we have mobilized on social media platforms. We have been accountable on social media platforms because Mchanga that was being used to take care of the victims of the police brutality, the accountability has been done there. We have lobbied on those platforms. So why is it difficult for you to use those platforms just as goodwill before we get to using the structures that are there? Show us some goodwill, show us that we can trust you, and then we will organize ourselves. But over and beyond that, right now, the goal is to put the structures together. Because even if we give a leader and there are still loopholes in the structures and there are loopholes in government, even if it is you, Ken Babu, you will go and be compromised. But if those structures are okay, even if Ruth Bolo goes, she has no loophole to be corrupt. Yeah. She has no loophole to show the Kenyan citizens the middle finger because those structures have been worked on and the framework is strong enough.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Like I said, Gen Zs don't take hostages. But before you come in, Leken, okay. I can see Marco Laboso is watching on YouTube. And Marco says, loving the conversation. There is a clear paradigm shift in the politics of Kenya. Our youth becoming more involved, hoping the young Turks exercise their democratic right to vote in 2027. And Marco, you know you were supposed to be here. But but he was not available, so we are hoping to have you.
He chickened out.
Marco Ken Babu, your friend, has said it.
He chickened out.
But we will have Marco in the next session of the young people, hopefully. So Marco, take that as a date to the young people because we know you lead a union of university students, and I know we would also like to hear your input on this. There's also something coming up on YouTube. That is Leonard Ntoroko, and he says the conversation is awesome. Young people are understanding what's happening in the state. Controversial. Leken has information solemnly in his responses and in being pragmatic. A brilliant man. Hey, mheshimiwa.
Leken you mobilize. No. Ulimwaga pesa kwa ground.
You see, I just want to...
Mheshimiwa Leken, you have a right to rebuttal.
I think I have a right to rebuttal. Let me tell you, when Towett sent me the post, I just posted it. I didn't actually tell anyone to
no, that goes to
but
show.
You see, let me tell you, I want to answer what Ruth has said because and I think
on structures
yes, on structures and things like that. You know, when we started this conversation early today, there is something I told you. I told you in victory, do not go past what you aimed for, and that is a conversation we must have with Gen Z. Don't go beyond what you aimed for. You aimed for the finance bill. The president has listened. The president has scrapped off the finance bill. He has listened. Because number one, we should also be honest with ourselves. Because, you know, people come and say, oh, the president must go. There is a process for that. If you want to vote out the president, if you now have confidence in it, there is a structure to do that. Let us not change the conversation. Gen Zs had a good way of bringing out issues. They were, in fact, the first two demonstrations were very peaceful. No robbing. No, thuggery and anarchy in the whole process. It was very peaceful until the day people got into parliament. That is where the problem started. And we need to be honest. We had an audience conversation from the word go. And we need to know that, one, in the round table, the president listened. He said, let us have a round table with young people. One of the places where these people are having a conversation space. And the president said, let me join and listen to what the young people are saying and even contribute. Because you see, when you want to engage the government, it is not a fighting battle. It is a process. You should have structures to engage the government. You don't just, and that is the reason why the government is saying, submit names of people you will want to have a conversation. And I like what Babu said. The president has already listened. If it is about the issues of spouses, he has said no budget for such kind of offices. If it is about the issues of CSS, until today, you know, people keep saying, why is the president not appointing CSS? It is because of the wage bill we have as a country. How do you appoint people, 50 something of them, or even reduce it to about 40? You're not looking at the wage bill that we have as a country. So we need to be honest with ourselves. Yes, number one, let us agree that the president did listen to us. That is number one. Secondly, the things that we are talking right now, these are things that can be in a process. We can give the president time. We can give the president 100 days. There are things that he can implement in 100 days. There are things that need constitutional change, and that is the conversation we should have. Let us not also be people who go beyond, because once we start going beyond what we aimed for, we lose meaning, and that is why people are infiltrating. People are taking advantage of the demonstration. Look at what happened yesterday in Kitengela. It is looting. Look at what happened yesterday in Kambi, looting. Look at what happened yesterday in Rongai. People were looting. So let us also be honest. In as much as we need change, let us be honest, because at the end of the day, Kenyans matter. This is our country. Let us not go the Arab Spring way, whereby people are just chaotic. Let us be honest. Let us have a conversation.
All right. And I should tell you, our viewers, let me tell you the amount of note writing that is in this room. Everybody came prepared, is what I am trying to say. And I like that, because as young leaders, the older generation have been saying you're not informed, you don't know what you're talking about. What this movement has brought out is also to show that our leaders as young people are prepared, you know. And Ken, I have a question for you. This generational shift we are witnessing is very profound, and the political structures are being challenged by a new wave of digital activism and advocacy spearheaded by the young people. Not only who are demanding for change, but are actively bringing it out. So do you think the political class is ready for the status quo to be distracted?
They are not ready. And that's why in as much as my brother Leken keeps talking about honesty, and he's speaking from the government point of view, he is very certain and sure that this government is not honest. It has never been honest, and he's not planning to be honest. So you see that. Maybe he might be the only person who is honest in this government. I don't know.
Can I see what you have done there?
So the political class is not ready for this. And that's why, in as much as, you know when you see these guys talking about, we support Gen Zs, or when the rubber hits the road, you'll see there'll be the same people trying to oppose this cause. Because they know, and they are very much aware that if the young people are united, like we are right now, and decides to push a cause, it can go through. You get that? And you can even shift and change leaders in those spaces that we're having. So in as much as we are pushing this thing, that's why we said we are not party. I mean, we are partyless. We don't have a party. I mean, I come from a different party, and in that demonstration, you will get people from UDA. That demonstration, you will get people from the former ANC, because it doesn't exist today. That demonstration, you will get people from ODM, KANU. It is not a party. For us, as young people, we are not on party issues. We are dealing with this thing as a generation. Get that? And the big boys in the political space, I don't know what they think, but I can tell you that they are not ready for this challenge. And that's something we'll get into. Let me come down to the pertinent issues that are affecting these countries as now. We mentioned the issue of SRC, and TSC communicated that 100,000 teachers will not get salaries. While in the same country where 100,000 teachers cannot get salary, a politician who is already earning more than 700,000 is being added money. That's what we are saying. That woman, that lady at SRC should also go home. Intern doctors have not been placed till now. Get that? You're having issues with young lawyers, ATPs. There's a problem everywhere. Get that? Issues of funding at the university. Hakuna kitu. Get that? But at the same time, we are adding members of parliament salaries. On the issue of CS, and Leken can confirm with me, that if not for the pressure of people in this country, the president was on his way to appoint those guys. Because it was out of court injunction that they were kept on the sides until Gen Z now rose up to put a stamp on it. And then the president said, okay guys, I've heard you, I will not appoint these people. But if not for that pressure, I'm telling you, Millicent Omanga today would have been a CS in the Ministry of Interior. I don't know what he will be interioring. The structure of the Gen Z, it is clear that we do not have leadership. I cannot declare myself here as Ken Babu as the chairman of Gen Z. I cannot declare myself because I was going for the demonstrations and I was not mobilized by anybody. I was mobilized by the issues that are pressing me, by the issues that I feel that need to be addressed, by the issues that I feel that the president is ignoring. For instance, issue around corruption. It is not, we do not need the gods to come down and tell us that the fertilizer that was supplied in this country was fake. And that thing traumatized our parents. Some of our parents and our grandparents are on blood pressure, medications, because they spent huge money in buying the fertilizers only to realize that they were buying stones at those costs. And then the guy is still in office, the guy is roaming around, moving around, enjoying life. You get that? And then we are told that the courts, the parliament could not find him culpable of that offense. My friend, the fertilizer we saw, we are the farmers. We are telling the president, Your Excellency, this thing was fake. Get that? So those are the issues of honesty we are talking about. On the issue of multi-sectoral forum that was proposed recently, this is a conversation between the Gen Z and the government. It was a conversation that the government called us to have a sitting with them. So at what point did they sit down and agreed that the multi-sectoral forum should only have 100 members? At what point, and who are these people who sat down and decided that each organization should provide only 2 people? Get that? And who are these guys who sat down and decided that after looking at the issues that are being raised, we need a multi-sectoral forum dialogue? So you see, this is a one-sided discussion. The government goes and sits down and decides for us. If they have the capacity to decide on what happened, why can't they decide and do what we are asking for? As simple as that. It won't cost anything. So those are the questions that we are asking. Towett, we talked of the issue of what do you call it?
Imepotea.
I'm trying to get it. The Mau Mau. Let me bring in the aspect of Mau Mau. When we had the Mau Mau thing,
the Mau Mau movement.
Mau Mau movement at that time, and somebody posted that the government is now calling. This is how government operates, and I think. I like referring to people in the government so that they can know.
By the way, for information, I'm not in government, by the way.
Where are you?
I'm just a Kenyan. I'm not in government, so please don't refer me as people in government.
Now, somebody posted, Ati, the government is now calling young people. This is an opportunity to make money. And they referred to the Mau Mau and said, Ati, when Mau Mau were called by the British, they refused to go and have a sitting with the British. And then other people came, the likes of Kenyatas and everybody, the Oginga Odingas of that time, and then sat with the whites, and then they got their pack, and that's how somebody became a prime minister, and then the government was formed, that they were part of the government, and then they declared Mau Mau as terrorists. So what they are saying, what the government is trying to say, that guys, those 100 people, this is an opportunity to make money.
And call them as criminals.
These are the people to get money, and anybody who is not amongst the 100, let them declare them criminals and terrorists. That is the culture that we have to put away, so that we can have a system that we can have honest discussion, put things on the limelight, and discuss and talk. We saw a president and a deputy president contradicting on their statements. Get that? But I want to say and I want to confirm that one of them is telling the truth. I don't want to mention who. One of them is telling the truth. Let me
that is true.
Ruth, I want you to come in with your comments, but also we are inheriting a world and nation with very complex challenges. For example, climate change, social justice, economic inequalities that demand innovative solutions. So even as we are moving forward, how can we now engage in a solution-oriented movement?
Okay.
Especially in regards to those issues that I have touched on.
Allow me to first start by saying something I really like that Leken said. And Leken said, let us have an honest conversation. And we must be honest. And he has reiterated that enough times. And one of the things you talk of when we are having an honest conversation, and you have said it rightfully, is that the president had people and he withdrew the finance bill. But I asked, and I will ask you again, how many lives lost later? Did it have to take blood of over 20 young people to touch the soils of this nation for him to hear us? Did it have to take young people to be beaten up? Yesterday, as I was watching the news, the first 22 minutes were about protests, police brutality, and extrajudicial killings, as well as looting of property. Then a short segment of it went to ODM whipping the MPs, which is still on the finance bill. And then the salary increase, which now is meant to just poke Kenyans because we are already angered, and then you increase, so you're just poking us. And then it went back to the police brutality, where they were now interviewing witnesses. What am I saying? We are, as a country, the fact that the president took so long to address these issues has given rise to, number one, the looting of the property that we are seeing. I also participated in the protests, both by going to the streets, donating blood, and giving to those who were unwell. And one thing I saw is that while you were in the protest, no one would dare steal from you as a protester. Yeah. In fact, anyone who would so much as dare to try that experiment is the one who would be dealt with by the citizens. So during those protests, that is why you could see people saying that you can walk around with your iPhone and lift it up.
And when you are tired, you run to KFC. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, so
and
long as the matching doesn't
come in an Uber.
Exactly. Because those protests are very safe, right? But when I saw the looting now going on and all the things that we witnessed yesterday, the first question I asked myself was, who wants the Gen Z out on the street so bad that they would send people to loot and steal from them? Because the Gen Z who were there yesterday would tell you that our things were being stolen, and that's why we withdrew. So my question was, who wants the Gen Z out of the streets so bad that they send people to disrupt them? I'm not casting any aspersions, but I'm just asking the question. You also talked about, and Jeff, I'm coming to your question, but you also talked about using the structures to remove the president. And you even asked a very good question, that you're saying you want the president out. They are means for that. You said you want members of parliament out. There are means for that. And one of the ones you are alluding to is IEBC, if I'm not wrong.
No. You can submit memorandum to parliament.
Yes, but IEBC is also one of them, right? Now, Parliament is on recess, as you know. So, which Parliament are they going to? IEBC is not fully constituted. So, you are telling us that, according to the Constitution, you've got areas and structures that have been set out for you. You've got platforms to address your grievances, but these platforms, conveniently so, are unable to address these issues. So you are telling us you can write a memorandum to Parliament and Parliament is on recess. You are telling us that we can go to IEBC and that is the route that you need to use when you're recalling your members of Parliament, for example.
Because they need to verify the
Yes, but IEBC is not fully constituted. So what you're telling me is there is water there, but you can only drink that water using a spoon. Is that being realistic, Leken? And we saw, and I think Ken Babu also talked about the president's speech and how that has fueled the ongoing protest, because you said that the finance bill was one of the major reasons, yes. And in your own words, and maybe for me to be able to maybe help you also understand why we are still on the streets despite the finance bill being dropped, is because we are witnessing a president that, one, is not remorseful, one, has shown arrogance through his speeches, and two, is coming out very, very defensive. We are seeing a president that we don't feel is empathetic. And if you see the kind of tantrums that he sometimes throws during this period of the protest, I am always tempted to either throw my slipper at the TV or just tell him, look, Mr. President, when the kitchen is too hot, step out. But now to Chepkoech's question on the solution-oriented movement. Number one, I'll start with the issues of climate change, for example. We've got a lot of young people who have innovative projects that go to address the climate change issues, be it in the agricultural sector, be it in the nexus between climate change and gender, be it in the nexus between climate change and food insecurity and whatnot. What needs to happen, and I know a lot in some areas we've got the innovation hubs. We need to find a way of incentivizing young people who have got these innovations and these solutions, such that whether it is through internships, for example, or through attachment or through volunteering, I know that if I volunteer in whatever organization is and I have a social change project, I'm getting, even if it is just a certificate that I can then use when I am going to ask for my next job, that I am able to get some credits or a scholarship to help me in a certain area, because the young people do have these solutions, but there's no adequate infrastructure in some of these areas for them to be able to advance the innovation that they have. And that's why we are seeing a lot of young Kenyans go abroad and their ideas are being borrowed and implemented. How many times have we said that I know a lot of Kenyans who go to South Africa for medication, they'll always come back and say, actually, the doctor that was treating me are Kenyan. How many times have we had people say, even in the US and in in Europe, especially when it's very cold, they'll tell you the invention I use in my house to give me heat, I actually got it from a Kenyan who is living in Germany. So we need to be able to maximize on the resources that young people have here, give them as much support as possible, give them the as much platforms as possible, ensure that there is a conducive environment for them to be able to move forward some of these innovations.
All right, and I know Leken is leaving for another meeting, but I have a last question for you. And Anne has said hi. So kumbe unajuana na Anne?
Yeah, I know Anne. I know Anne. Since 2017, we've been having conversation about, getting involved. Young people being involved.
I like this
so
movement.
We've not started.
So we are all friends. Anyway, Leken,
yes.
The last question before you go, as you give also your parting shot, where is the place of dialogue and intergenerational mentorship that will foster mutual respect and also learning, and the institutional gaps and changes? How can we bring them up?
One, I just want to tell Ruth, because I might not get an opportunity to address her again. But as I said, we must also be, let us be aware that this is our country. At the end of the day, if there is demonstration every day, nothing will go on in this country. Investors will pull out. Everyone will be, at the end of the day,
and the president
even the president himself
will step down.
No. You see, let me tell you one thing. As I said, let us be keen on the objective we had. We had an objective. We have made our point. Let us step back, The president has listened. Let us observe. Let us sit back and observe. We have a duty 2027 to vote in people who mistreated us. We have that opportunity 2027. So going forward, my parting shot, Towett, before I come to your question. Going forward, let us register as voters. Let us wait for 2027. Get involved. Don't just talk, get elected. Don't just talk, get elected. These members of parliament, you're saying they're treating you badly, or get elected yourself as a legislator. Be the one.
You
the
might
one.
have to give your profile.
You see,
You might have to give your profile.
Be the one, because let me tell you, and I just want us to be very honest. Even these people that are, because it is all about propaganda out there. Most of things out here in the finance bill, or what is currently happening in the country, is all about propaganda. Listen to what people are talking about. If you ask them, why does the president have to go? They cannot really tell you.
But I've just told you, and I'm also in the one of the people on the street.
Just 1 minute, Ruth. Let me tell you, there is no better person in that office as president of this country as William Ruto. And you know why? Because this is one person. This is just a minute. This is one person who has been in government all along. You see, at the end of the day, you wouldn't want to bring someone new who doesn't even understand how government works, how government operates. We need someone with experience.
I like as Leken is talking, the notes are being written.
I hope he'll be watching.
I'll try and watch. But I want us to have an honest conversation. Let us understand that this is our country. Without it, we will go nowhere. So let us understand that this country, we don't have any other country to run to. So let us take a step back. Listen, let us observe, let us see what will happen, because we cannot also picket every day. We cannot have demonstrations every day. Nothing will work. You yourself, you will go to the market and you will not even get something to buy. People are pulling out, people are closing. So let us also be honest that this country is ours. At the end of the day, we need peace. For everything, for you even to picket, you need peace. So let us be honest with that. In regards to your question, Towett, I will, most of these things need constitutional change. And I think that is the conversation we are heading. I think by 2027, we should have a referendum in this country. My opinion as a young person, because if you look at various institutions, there are institutions that are letting us down. There are institutions that have not that grip to, so it is a conversation we will have. It might not be here, but eventually we will have that conversation. But young people, let us get out there, let us register as voters. In the next election, get elected, vote in good people.
All right, and that has been Leken. But Ken Babu, there's someone who has said something, and as Gen Z, I want you to to talk to them. So Eric Kimeo has said, Gen Z, you also need to be honest with the rest of us. You are not honest about your leadership, and you're telling others to be honest. As much as we support you, you need to be decent in your talk.
Absolutely.
I think we are decent in our talks, because we've not, if you've been keen on how we've done our demonstrations, we are not insulting the president. We are not insulting anybody in government. What we are saying is, we are saying things as they are.
Ken, are you aware that when the president was in the space, people were telling him, fuck you? Are you aware? No. You see, let me tell you, even when you look at demonstration, what was happening in Kasarani, people were insulting the president. You see, at the end of the day, it is not just, there are better ways to air your voice without insulting anyone. Towett, kindly, will you allow me?
I think we need
Babu, I was here by the way by 7 o'clock. I was here by 7 o'clock. I had anticipated that I leave at 9. So please, will you guys allow me?
Fine.
No problem.
Let us have our honest conversation. Thank you so much,
Leken, for joining us this morning. We are honored to have you. But also, it is not a conversation that we will stop now.
Yes.
I would want to invite you again, maybe a month or so after.
We need to.
So that we see how far has it gone since we last had a conversation.
Absolutely.
And thanks for making time
Thank you so much.
to join us. We wish you the best in everything that you're doing. And yes, we want to see you in parliament, because I always challenge Ken Babu and even Ruth here, because they are political.
That is a conversation that when we started, I was on the ballot in 2022, and we need, as young people, don't just sit and wait change. get elected, get to parliament.
So I hope to see you people
Yes.
in parliament or even county assembly.
Yes.
And thank you, Leken. You have a good day.
Thank you so
Enjoy
much.
the rest of your day. Wacha
Thank you so much.
nipambane na hao wadau.
Have a good day as well. Thank you so much.
Good to see you
Leken.
guys. Thank you.
All right.
Uh-huh.
So, Ken Babu,
Yes.
the movement looks and sounds like it's more. It's not just about politics. There's more to it, and the more has been brought out. Like you have rightfully put it in the conversations that we have been talking about. Mm-hmm. The more has been about the cost of living, high taxation, inflation, and all these other things. But is it a tactic that the political class is using to now infiltrate the movement? Is it a tactic in saying that, oh, it's not about the finance bill, it's not about this, you have change costs, you have, do all these other things? Is it a tactic that our politics to be, or is it just that the older guard is also scared, looking at this young generation and thinking, if they could take over parliament, it means they can take over leadership of this country?
Towett, I've said this before and I want to say it here, and I want to make it clear that finance bill was just but a catalyst to the whole process. It catalyzed the whole, in fact, it increased the level of anger in people. But that does not mean that people have not had issues with this government. People have had many issues, from the unlawful demolitions. We've had issues, as university students have had issues with the capitation funding model, but because Aden Duale had done his things while in parliament and interfered with the leadership of the university, they could not air their voices. That's another problem. We've had issues with the level of corruption in this government. We've had issues with the arrogance and public annoyance in the leadership and people, some characters in this system. Get that? We've had issues, we have pain with the fake fertilizer stuff, but we were coerced and forced to keep quiet. So when finance bill came, we said, guys, this is the time to show these guys that indeed we are tired. And that's why you are seeing hashtag going around to Mechoka. Look at that. And this guy must go. We are not saying that. And let me tell you, people have misunderstood us many times. We do not have a problem with President Ruto as a person. Look at that. Ruto the dad, Ruto the husband, Ruto the man, there's no problem. We are having a problem with the government system, with the governance, system of governance. If he was not a president, we could not be mentioning his name. But because he's the man with the sword, he must now put drastic measures and ensure that these things are addressed. Honestly speaking, you can take a look at the parliament leadership. The likes of Kimani Ichung'wah, the likes of Osoro. Those are young people who should give a direction. But they're making it look like young people cannot be trusted by leadership. Because they're misbehaving, misconducting themselves, public annoyance, arrogance, disrespect to everybody. Get that? So we are asking the president to put a change, put a stop to all this mess, so that we can have a country that can be admired. And what happened on Tuesday, where young people now decided to submit their petitions to parliament. In fact, we did not storm the parliament. We just submitted our petitions to members of parliament, but in form of actions, because they have failed to take action. The moment you see people coming from their areas of residence all the way to parliament, and has never happened before, it happened for the first time, then that tells you that whatever the communication that was being submitted to members of parliament at that time, that consultation ought to have happened at the constituency level. These members of parliament are well financed, they are well oiled. These dialogues, whatever the agitations that we are taking to parliament on that day of Tuesday, we ought to have discussed all that at the village level, so that the member of parliament comes to the bunge and says, guys, I've listened to the ground, and they are not in support of this document. But because we have people who are just stamping and saying that, oh, so what will they do? We are in parliament, and at one point we were told that when you are in parliament, whatever you say remains there and you are well protected. Tuesday, they were shown that they are never far from the people. And this should go out there to MPs, including myself, because I will be one.
Correct.
We are not far from the people. And we should not think that we are so special. Members of parliament are not special than any other person in this country, because anyway, it is the people who give them those powers. It's a donated responsibility. And the Constitution, Article 1, states clearly that sovereignty belongs to people. And you can first represent yourself or delegate. So you see, we've opted for option 2, to delegate power. to some few individuals, and then in their senses, in their wisdom or lack of it, they think now that we are the special ones, we cannot be told anything. On Tuesday, it was a communication that, guys, you are not that special than any other person in this country, and do not imagine that you are so far from the public. You can be accessed easily. And if guys could go to parliament, which is
hey, Ken Babu, usivunje microphone. Sio sisi tulikosea Gen Z.
If guys could go to parliament that way, now you can ask yourself what can happen at the village level in funerals for those members. And that's why I'm saying they have to think twice and conduct themselves in accordance with the demands and needs of the people on the ground. Coming to that, we've seen the church. Let me just bring in the church, because I've not heard you mention the church. The church had played a critical role to put these people in government. Yeah, this government is owned by the church anyway. They played a critical role, because it is in the church that they could get numbers mobilized already, and they take to the pulpit and campaign and sell propaganda, sell rumors, things that they have failed to implement up to today. And now the church, people are being killed, people are being maimed, people are being abducted, people are being arrested unlawfully. The church kept quiet. And then they moved to State House. And let me tell you, I did not see my bishop in State House. I did not see my pastor in State House.
Who is your bishop?
My bishop is in Kisumu County. I did not see him in State House. And in fact, my church was not even represented in that State House. So if they say that we are church, we are representing who are they representing? That's the big question. So we have to be honest and very careful on how we discuss. And I saw in one of the interviews, one of the bishops that was in State House saying that we are representing the church, the religious. We respect church, but we do not respect individuals who wants to take advantage of situations that have claimed lives of people in this country. Up to now, KNHCR are reporting 41. Get that? Before 41, they were reporting 24, and the president said 19. Get that? What we are saying, and this one, what we are saying is this, the church played a role to put these guys in government. The church must play a role to take them off the government by telling them the truth of what is on the ground. Second to that, we have one Dennis Itumbi, who is on the radar of young people, purporting to the voice of the youth in State House. He is not. I wanted to say this yesterday, but it's good you've given me this platform. So let me say it. That guy is not a representation of any young person in this country. And the president should get it clear and mark it. The truthful man, I think he has marked that. And the truthful man is now willing to talk, to engage the young people. Honestly, the way he is honest. You know that? And I said the two are talking and one is saying the truth. Let me tell you, Towett, we need to have a system that is true to the realities on the ground. William Ruto, the president, during campaigns could do at least 6 counties in a day. And Ruth Bolo mentioned here, they're talking about dialogue. What happened or what changed that he cannot do regional dialogues with these young people? Aende pale Kisumu, Kisia, Nyawara, Kisumu West constituency, akae pale chini, so that young people from Nyawara village where I come from can also have a conversation with the president because anyway, truly speaking, the issues that are affecting youth in this Nairobi are not the same issues that are affecting young people in Kisumu County. There are areas where we converge, but there's a lot of disparity. Why can't President William Ruto budget for a month and do all these meetings with the young people across this country, gather conversation, gather reports, and then take action on it, away from the bare minimum, the obvious thing that he should do, like sacking and doing all that. So what we are saying is, it is possible. The president can engage people at the grassroots level. Let him take action and do that. As I finish on that, let me just mention something about the police. We are going into a situation where, Towett, you will be arrested here by people who are masked and covering their faces, and then we will assume that those are police officers, because we are cultivating that culture. You get that? And the president was asking a very serious question. That is, police officers only a police officer in
when
uniform?
He has uniform.
Yes, I can be a police officer without uniform, but I have to identify myself. With that, I cannot just walk in this room and arrest Ruth Bolo without identifying myself as a police officer from police station AB, and these are the reasons why we are arresting you. People who took Alfred Keter. Those guys covered their face. You could not even tell if it was a woman arresting him or a man arresting him. You get that? That is the situation. If we go that direction, then we are going to encourage terrorism in this country. And then we have to speak to it. There's a police officer who's on the radar of young people as it stands right now. The guy has not been arrested. See that? The guy even tear-gassed journalist. He has not been arrested. Just walking scot-free. So what kind of a state are we in? The agencies, many institutions in the government are somehow toothless. Look at IPOA. They've not done anything. They keep on giving us report, and launching a strategic plan. What are you launching? What report are you giving? Look at that. Look at ESCC. ESCC is proving to us that indeed Kenyans, we have been right all this while, that they are not doing what they should do. Look at that. Somebody with a corruption case of almost $1 billion is being released and being charged to pay 200 million. $1 billion, 200 million, almost 800 million going home. So what we are saying is this issue of corruption needs to be addressed fully, completely, so that we can have a system that operates. Cut the expenditure so that mwananchi pale mashinani, mama mboga, baba mboga, and the mboga himself or mboga herself can can enjoy the government services. Hivyo, hakuna mambo ingine. And that's what the young people are saying.
All right, and it is good to have the young people here, the actual Gen Zs, because apart from being just young people, you are also leaders within the group of young people, because leadership does what? Leadership gives direction. And so it is also good to put your thoughts together as leaders. Now, to you, Ruth, is there a slow pace in institutional change, and that is why young people are feeling like, you know what, we cannot collaborate, we cannot dialogue, we cannot have respect? Because we've seen a section of Kenyans, even Enoch, who commented here to say that Gen Zs are not showing respect, and all of you went up in arms.
I think there are three things that will be attributed to that. The first one is goodwill. Because sometimes, even though you're not able to give that abrupt change, but show some goodwill. Show that you're willing to do it, and then now we will know that, as Leken said, in 100 days, you'll be able to do it. But remember, the person who you are telling us to give 100 days or to allow to give us a promise has given us numerous promises, but very few of them have been kept. This is the same person who talked to us about stadiums, but never came back to tell us, to give us an account of why they are not there. This is the same person who last year told us that by last year, September, we will no longer be seeing motorbikes on the road that are not electric driven. But now what are we doing? They're still there. There's no exit or transition plan. So what the young people are saying is, we cannot allow you to just give us a promise without telling us how you're going to implement it, because we have seen how that has gone. The other thing why, quote unquote, they are coming out as disrespectful is arrogance. And I would like to ask, if you are saying that the Gen Z are being disrespectful, what is fueling them? Because these are not mad young people who have woken up all of a sudden and decided to be disrespectful. But where did we see this anger? This anger was fueled, apart from just the finance bill, when the president came on television after our internet was being shut down and slowed down and interrupted. He came to the television and threw a tantrum. What Kenyans expected, number one, that day was for him to even, first of all, show some empathy to those who had lost the loved ones. Mm-hmm. And then number two, take accountability and say that the police enforcement, this is what they did, this is how I'm going to deal with it. Number three, at that point, you should have told Kenyans, I have had you, and I will pull down I will withdraw the finance bill. But he still waited for Kenyans to give an uproar after that speech before he could come back and say that, look, I am withdrawing the finance bill. And when he was withdrawing the finance bill, he came on air with the very same members of parliament who had voted yes, the very same members of parliament who Kenyans do not want to see. And when you're in such a critical position, people are not only looking at you, but they are also looking at those around you. And so I think what is fueling this is how he has dealt with the situation. And that is why we are more and more persistent, because we feel like he is not listening to us. We feel like he does not want to, show some goodwill. And I'd like to just go, there's something Ken had talked about in terms of the churches. And I think there are some churches that we need to applaud. All Saints Cathedral, for example, when Kenyans were being tear-gassed, when the police were unleashed on Kenyans, some went to take refuge at All Saints Cathedral.
Ruth, just say yourself.
Yes, me included. And the policemen tear-gassed inside the church. But what they kept on doing is they kept on saying, no, come this side, you can take refuge here, you can. So we have seen some churches come to say that, look, we are going to serve as blood donation centers, we are going to serve as rescue centers, we are going to serve as a place where people can come and take refuge, as a place where doctors can come and set up their medical camp. But the larger majority of them, as Ken is saying, still need to speak out and say and condemn the government. But I think what is making and I want us to look at what Dennis Itumbi did yesterday, or was it the day before? He put out a tweet asking, why is it that it is now that Kenyans are having an issue with the office of the First Lady as opposed to before? And right there and then he got his response. Because the Gen Z are saying, hatutaki vitu za kutukalisha, and that is why TikTok is very popular, because it has got very short clips. You get your information within that short span kama umesonga mbele. He got his response right there and then. Kenyans told him, with our previous First Lady, she used her office to do 1, 2, 3, and we felt that it was giving an impact. With our current First Lady, we saw her put together gospel concerts, and we really do not feel the effect of that. And so, if they want to get feedback, and Leken said something. Leken said that President William Ruto has been in government for a very long time. So he knows that you have to be agile. You have to be able to adapt to the different situations and different trends. So at a time and place like this where his systems are weak, where there's a trust deficit, he needs to come back to the young people and, number one, show that he is listening. Number two, show that he is empathetic. Number three, he needs to accept his mistakes and be sorry. He needs to put to account those that he is saying, quote unquote, are misleading him. When we begin to see these things, these are goodwill. This is what we are calling goodwill. And that way, then you'll begin to see that the Gen Z are actually feeling that the change is coming. And they will simmer down.
All right. As you are simmering down, let me read for you something that has just come up from the CS of Health, that is Susanna Humicha. And there is a statement that says, my attention has been drawn to efforts by some individuals to raise funds from the public to pay hospital bills for persons injured during the demonstrations. Out of 294 casualties attended to in our referral hospitals, 235 have been treated for various degrees of injuries, discharged, and none has been asked for payment. Now, like you said, Gen Z pia wanakupeanga majibu papo na hapo.
Yes.
Hanifa, who we know was in the front line and was part of the people who had been had disappeared at the beginning of the protests. And Hanifa has said, I will not read the first part, but she has said, KNH waived the bills after you guys were aired here, and I mentioned that. There are so many people in KNH, that is Kenyatta National Hospital, complaining up to now that they haven't received surgery, yet they are in pain. We transferred 5 people from KNH to Nairobi West, and they are doing well. KNH refused for people to be transferred after that and started politics. Mind you, these people did not care, and when Frank's story aired on Citizen, it is when they waived bills. You had kitty funds. I requested you don't charge them, but you still follow people with bills at home. Usilete politics hapa. If you are in a public hospital and they are bothering you, please reach out to me and we will take care of you. Have some shame, do not politicize this. By the way, when I first visited KNH, they sent out memos after that people do not be visited without special orders. Mind you, they are refusing to transfer people and I'm having a hard time helping them. There's a street kid there who needs a breathing apparatus and KNH is not looking after him and doesn't let others do it too.
You know, Chep, this is what I'm talking about. The government is not coming out to say, it's not coming out to take responsibility. And it is things like that that are annoying people. If you look at some of the words that I know you could not read that Hanifa has put up in that post, it is because of this. It is because of not taking responsibility. And I will give you an example. I want you to take a look at your home and everyone else who is watching. You come in your home every day. You find that there is a child that has knocked your windscreen. And the parent of this child is asking you, but even you, when you don't have a protective gear for your car, instead of taking responsibility, do you think you will just sit down and be respectful as they are saying? Or do they come and ask you, but don't you know these are just kids? Or they blatantly deny and you can see that the windscreen is shattered. So these are the things that we are saying, that government is not taking responsibility. They are coming out to be very, very defensive. And the push and the defense that they're giving is the push that is making the young people go to a corner. And now it is not just young people, like I said. We saw a mother yesterday who gave an account of her child who was shot in the protest. And the child said, I thought they were rubber bullets, but mine was a live bullet. And the mother said, look, after my child came home, on Thursday I was on the streets while he was recovering at home. Because we are now saying that the government is feeling like they are too high above to even listen to Kenyans. We saw this one when it came to the death rates, and now we are seeing it with the incidences in hospital. And sometimes, and I'd like to just advise the CS, because this is not the first time she's coming to the limelight because of either coming out as arrogant as coming out as I don't care. I think I need to advise her that sometimes when she has nothing nice to say, she needs to keep quiet because she makes the situation worse. It's not the first time.
Let me just weigh in on what.
Yes, I was coming to you to weigh in because I needed.
On what Ruth Bolo is saying, from what CS said, and with the things as they are on the ground, this government is full of arrogant officials. And just like others have been saying before, this woman as well should go home. Let me tell you, the situation is worse, and in the midst of crisis like this, people have lost lives. We have 41 lying dead. Some have been buried. And then a whole cabinet secretary of health who had not even mentioned a word at the beginning when people were being shot and killed is now coming and telling us, it is true. What Hanifa said is true. It's happening at KNH. Guys are dumped there. Nothing is happening. They are not allowed to be seen. Either I don't know. They want them to die so that they take them to the morgue and bills keep piling. Do they want to eat them? They want to feed on them? No, they should tell us. The government should tell us if they want to feed on those guys, so that we let them die. They can feed on them. We don't know. But it is so insensitive for a whole minister who is speaking on behalf of the guy. That's why we don't have issue with the minister. We have issue with the boss. Because if the boss goes home, these guys, people like this will not be anywhere to survive. That's what we are saying. It's either the boss takes such characters away from the public, or he decides to go home. Because this one is public annoyance, and you see as little as it appears, it can hike. It can worsen the programs for tomorrow, because tomorrow is Thursday. And
it's another holiday.
And we have 2 holidays in this country right now, Tuesday and Thursday. So this one can also make the Thursday holiday more bad, as it was envisioned. So such like people should not be. The president need to do much better. Na vitu kama hizi. And we have another CS who is also, he has not spoken, but his silence is making us more mad, and you get that. The CS for youth, Babu na Mwamba. Young people have been killed in this country. Many have been rendered, productiveless. You get that? But the CS for youth is just quiet, walking around, doing his own activities. Let me tell Babu na Mwamba that no dead person can join Talanta Hela. A dead person cannot join Talanta Hela. It doesn't matter how much it will be a brand in the world. If these young people die today, all of them, that thing, Talanta Hela, will be useless. So he has to take charge and pronounce himself on the killing of the young people in this country.
And just one sentence. When just adding on to the arrogance that is being seen by the government, when I almost called him the deputy president, but when the president gave his speech to withdraw the finance bill, if you look at the structure of that speech, he first started by giving his performance review, where he said, I have done this in my government, I have done this in my government, I have done this, and some of them were false. And then after he gave us his performance review, then he said, I empathize with those who have lost, the loved one, and then quickly moved on to it. So, and it just goes back to show that it is not a priority for them. And that is what it is very, very painful.
All right. So how do we ensure that this Gen Z movement, how do you, Gen Z and Gen Z leaders in your various capacity, ensure that this movement translates to lasting change? Ruth?
I think one, civic education. One of the things that we are doing at Young Women Leaders Connect is to educate the public, and especially young women, and educate them how in 2 ways. One, those who are interested in running for office. This is the time we are telling them, look, this is how to go about it. This is how to save up for your finances. So we need to equip those who want to run for office come 2027, so that we have those who have been with us on the streets. Number two, civic educate even our parents in terms of voting. And we've seen memes go around where the Gen Z are saying, you need to, when come 2027, we need to take the IDs of our parents because they are the ones who put us in this mess. So we need to do a lot of civic education where we are telling people that when it comes to voting, do not look at the party, but look at the track record of the person. Do not just listen to their words. Look at their development record. Another thing, and it's unfortunate that IEBC is not tapping into this heat that is there now, because this is the best time for them to set up the ongoing voter registration. It would be lovely to see, number one, a system where as you go and apply for your ID, you automatically apply for your voter's card. Yeah. And so you know that you have it. Let it be that the person has decided not to, but they have that card. We have situations where, and I've always given this to, number one, in the rural areas, one of the things that makes it very difficult for registration to happen is that the chief's areas are sometimes very far, especially in the rural area. So for me to be able to go and register for my ID to and fro, it can cost up to 300 on a minimum. So I will ask myself, with these 300 shillings, am I going to register for my ID, or am I going to put food on the table as a young person? And then now you come to the... And so, of course, that is also seen when voter registration is ongoing. And then you now bring it down to the urban areas where we have people who have either been born in street families or, for one reason or the other, they don't have the birth certificate or the death certificate of their parent. They have issues when they're registering for their ID. So these are issues that we need to address, and this is the best time to address them. But also, I think another issue that is coming up and is that the youth organizations, as the president has called them, is that they are being intentional in now educating people on the different processes that are there, such as the finance process. And right now, young people are also saying that they're cascading down the conversation even to the counties, as the county finance bill is going on. And that's why we saw Makueni County withdraw their county finance bill, because young people are now cascading it. So the youth organizations need to now continuously tell people about the governance processes that are there and how they can get involved. But also, finally, there is the discussion on social media and technology. And social media and technology is becoming one of those tools that we need to use to advance our governance and democratic system. One, to pass information. Two, to lobby, even in terms of campaign and advocacy, but most importantly, in terms of sending out communication. When there is no communication from government or from state actors or from members of parliament or whatnot, it leaves room for assumption. And so when these young people are making the assumptions, then they will go ahead and act on those assumptions, because you've left them with no choice. And finally, we are also putting anyone they said to whom much is given, much is expected. Whether you're a state actor, whether you are an influencer, whether you are a youth leader, the young people are now saying that we are watching you. Number one, we are watching the silence of our friends. Number two, we are watching those that we support. What are they doing about it now? And that is why we saw people like Eddie Butita have their attacks on their social media, because we are saying we cannot purport to be supporting you, but as our people are being killed, you are quiet. We cannot support to be consuming your content, but as we are on the street and our people are being beaten up, we are quiet. So I think right now, when this heat is going on and this drive is there, the youth organizations need to tap into it and need to use it to civic educate people as much as possible.
All right. And Ken Babu, looking ahead, what role will these youth-led movements play in shaping the future of our politics?
Just to add on what Bolo have said, I think the political parties have a responsibility as well. Yeah, the political parties it's high time that they step in and cascade the capacity building and advocacy and trainings on their respective leagues, so that the young people within those political setups can also get to understand what's happening. Because I can tell you for a fact that there are some political youth leagues that they do not operate.
You are the chair of DAP-K. Does yours operate?
Fully.
You do civic education?
Fully.
Capacity building? We
do all that. It is that now the government with the ORP, political parties,
or Register of Political
Parties, through the PPA, political parties fund, they have decided not to disseminate finances. So you see, it's a challenge. So it's intentional fight on the democracy anyway. So what we are saying, the political parties needs to step up and ensure that they are doing just the same thing that civic societies are doing: advocacy, capacity building, training on the young people. In fact, this is the time that the young people need to start galvanizing themselves towards the political conversation and get involved in the political activities. Yeah. And back to your question, the movement in regards to
shaping
the future. As it stands right now, the movement has already carved. Imechonga. The bare minimum. And going forward, you can see if elections were to be held today, we will have a different face of parliament and a different face of leaders. Not that because not because of the issues that we've seen or something, but many people have woken up. And the young people, for the first time, people are saying, initially, this generation said you could talk to people about politics and they're like, why? Mbona niingie siasa? Mimi siwezi ingia siasa juu.
It was you guys struggling in the political field.
It was us struggling and roaming around politicians, and you get that. But now everybody is awake and they're saying, bro, we need to get this. Because this is what the problem is. Initially people thought that politics is not their thing. But they came to realize that politics is everything. Whether you are going to get married or you are going to die single, it is political. It is because anyway, as I am a person like myself, Jamani, how am I going to get married if the government cannot provide a conducive environment for me to survive? If the environment is not conducive for me to do one business, I cannot even,
bring somebody's child to your house.
The biology in myself cannot be functional at 5 a.m. You get? So when the government is making things difficult, it makes things difficult right from the bedroom all the way. So young people have realized that politics affects everything, and they are willing to be part of the conversation. They are willing to be involved. They are willing to step up and go to that ballot. And I can tell you, this process of putting the government to check and highlighting the issues and demanding for response, demanding for accountability is something that is going to hold. It's going to stay there for the longest time. In fact, it has changed the political terrain because there is no politician who's just going to come on the ground and start lying. Gen Z, we reduced that finance bill through that thing that the president used to put up his speech on Tuesday when people stormed Parliament. AI. We generated the finance bill to little bits where you can just look at it and see there's a lie. You just look. You don't have to read it. You just look at the document and see a lie. So that's what I'm saying. People are working, and there's no politician who is going to come up and tell a lie on everything, on anything, because guys will do research and put you to task. And then the political parties, again, you saw ODM initiating the process of recalling the raw politicians, the people are, It is a process that should have in all political parties, including the UDA. Because anyway, if the president himself rejected the finance bill, then those voted yes should be disciplined. They should be punished. And then it's so bad. Let me as I conclude on the issue of shaping the future, like I've said, it's something that it's a discussion that we've had. It's something that's going to happen, and they are out and willing to engage. But most importantly, we have to register as voters. Just as she mentioned, we need to register as voters. And that calls for the constitution of IBC with immediate effect. Why don't we have an IBC right now? I think from where I see it is intentional. Because anyway, if you are to recall your member of parliament who misbehaved the other day,
the signatures have to be verified by
exactly,
IBC.
By IBC, which is not there. Get that? Constitutionally, IBC is an institution. It is there. But now the people to execute the responsibilities are the ones that are not in the office. And suppose the IBC was there. Towett, you've gone to the ground, you've gathered the signatures, at least 30%. You have the reasons to recall your member of parliament, and then now things go through IBC, verifies. Now you take the matter to the next level in parliament. Now the question is, do we have an honest speaker who will declare that seat vacant? We don't have that. That's why we are saying, going forward, elective positions, objectivity, agenda. Get that? Those will be the two things. Pesa utakuja nayo. If you want to spew money, we've seen people.
And we will take it.
We'll have to take it. We have to take it. If you come with money, you have to take it. But what we are saying, representation is the key thing. Get that? Oversight, and then legislation. At the representation here, this is where we have problem, and that's why we ended up in this mess. Representation, because everything in this finance bill was about representation. Our MP, we are saying we don't want this. Go and represent us and say, my people do not want this. And these guys have failed us in the representation. That's why we are saying, going forward, and as young people, majority mefunguka, and we are going to cast that ballot on 3 things. First, agenda, proper manifesto, and the ability to represent.
All right, and that has been it. It has been a spirited discussion, but most importantly, it was spearheaded by the young people who are in various capacities of leadership in their spheres of life. And the conversation was generational shift in politics. That is a youth-led movement. And some of the issues that have come up, we have been asked to register as voters, especially the young people. The young people have brought about issues of inclusivity, sustainability, accountability, and transparency. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for engaging us and discussing with us this morning and letting us know what your thoughts are and were on the finance bill. I have been your host, Chepkoech Towett. Thank you for joining us this morning on New Day TV, both YouTube and Facebook. See you same place, same time on Friday on Sheria Wiki hii. Be safe and take care of yourselves. Kesho ni siku ya maandamano, as Ken Babu has said, tunakuanga na holiday mbili. So kindly, wherever you are, be safe and keep everyone around you safe.
Thank you, Chep, for staying.